This episode of Switchcraft is brought to you by patrons like Shell Shock Prime. Support Switchcraft and my other content for as little as $1 and get exclusive rewards at patreon.com/runjumpstomp. All right, we'll name that Patreon. Let me ask you guys a question. I have a sponsor for today. I guess you know what? I'm not going to ask a question. I'm going to do the sponsor ad read. I'm going to let you guys hear it, and you guys can tell me if you think it's terrible or not, okay? So let me know if you think it sounds okay. I'd like to thank our sponsor, podnuts.com. They're a tech-focused podcast network for normal tech fans by normal tech fans. And for those of you Odroids, shuttle computers, Arduinos. They talk about many computer-focused operating system, and they talk about the companies impacting the mini PC market. It's very interesting topic to talk about, because I know that when I was trying to build my arcade cabinet, I had to go to the internet quite a bit to try and figure out how to do this or how to do that. And if I had just listened to the mini PC show, it would have been a whole lot easier. So thank you again to Podnuts for the... Yeah, no cam and no... Damn it. I don't know what happened. All right, well, you know what? I'm just going to copy it in there. Well, okay, that's my backup. That'll be my backup. Okay? I'm going to close that because I've got a backup. And I'll just record one right now live, and we'll see how that sounds. Let's see where I just need to. I'll come back to that. And not that. There we go. There we go. Okay, I just had to find the text. Oh, where was it? Oh, there we go. Okay, let me highlight that text so that I have it, and I'll record the next thing. Before we get into episode 89, I want to take a moment. This episode of Switchcraft is brought to you by... Forgot to shut that down. Before we get into episode 89, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of the show. In this case, it is podnuts.com. They are a tech-focused podcast network for normal tech fans by normal tech fans, and they've got a whole bunch of different shows. I'm going to talk about just one of them today. The show that I'm talking about today is the Mini PC Show, and if I had listened to this before, it would have been so much better for me. For those of you that don't know, I have a 1980 Atari Asteroids Deluxe arcade cabinet in my studio. I was able to get for $60, which is crazy, and it didn't work. The circuit board was burnt up, and I yanked all of the guts out of it. I threw a monitor in there, a Raspberry Pi in there, some crappy speakers, and I loaded on some ROMs that I had myself ripped, and it was a process. It took me some time. I had to figure some things out. Now, if I had just listened to the mini PC show ahead of time, I would have done better with it. And that's because the hosts, Brian, Flying Rich, Daniel, and Dor, they talk all about this kind of stuff. They talk about all shapes and sizes of mini computers like Raspberry Pis, Odroids, shuttle computers, Arduinos, etc. And they talk about all of the things that impact that market, like operating systems and things like that, and software. So I highly recommend that you head on over to podnuts.com and check out the mini PC show if you're interested in something like that. Thank you again to podnuts.com for sponsoring the show. How'd that do? Was that okay? Did that sound good, guys? I think it went all right. I think I'm going to keep it. All right, so we'll call that sponsor. All right, and then feedback. Let me grab my drink. Is the audio working now? Yeah, it's tough to say what I want to say in a short amount of time. It was almost 2 minutes, but, you know, a 2-minute commercial once every hour and a half, because I only do it once a segment, or I'm sorry, once a week. I think it's okay. Plus, I might edit that down a little bit. Thanks, Nintendad. All right. And let's get into feedback. I've got a review on Apple Podcasts. No, it wasn't on. You know what? Start over. Let's go ahead and start with feedback. I couldn't figure out how to see the name because somebody had actually reviewed the show on the Podbean app, which I didn't even know that you could review shows there. Anyway, they said, "I love this podcast. Switchcraft is my favorite source of Nintendo news." I couldn't see who said it. Just they had like some icon of somebody kind of tousling their hair, it looked like. But thank you very much for the review. If you want to help out, head on over to Apple Podcasts or apparently the Podbean app and review the show. It helps a lot. I received an email. Let's see. This email comes to us from Trevor, and they said, "We are starting to see some of those graphically intense games like NBA 2K18 and FIFA 18 played on the Switch. They seem to have a lot of problems running on the Switch." I'm just going to pause it for a second while I'm having an issue with my screen. Let me fix it. There we go. Okay. Do you think we will have the same problem as we did with the Wii U, where third-party developers will stop trying to make these games on the Switch? It seems like they're having the same problem bringing games to the Switch that they had for the Wii U. The big difference is the success of the Switch versus the failure of the Wii U. Developers have a big incentive now to get their games on the Switch, where they didn't have that on the Wii U. It just seems like too big of a task, and I imagine it's a lot of work for these developers to try and put these games on the Switch. Should we accept that the Switch as a system, mainly for Nintendo games mainly for Nintendo-made games and smaller indie-type games? Love the show. Thanks, Trevor. Well, Trevor, I think as long as the system has a good install base, third-party companies are going to continue to develop for it. NBA 2K18 is running the exact same engine as it is on the other systems, and I think that over time, 2K18 will probably improve. I haven't played the game myself, so I'm just basing the fact that it needs improvement on what you have said. One good thing to think about is that the PS4 Pro and Xbox One currently don't have exclusive games, meaning that if there's a game on the Pro or the One X, It's also on the older PS4 or Xbox Ones. And I think that that's something that is required by Microsoft and Sony. This means that devs have to make sure that their engines are scalable. And if they've got a scalable engine, that means that it's only going to help development on the Switch. Something else to keep in mind is that many developers have said that developing for the Switch is a whole lot easier to develop for than the Wii U ever was, meaning ports are going to take a lot less time and resources to manage that. The Switch also supports a lot of third-party engines, which the Wii U really didn't, especially early on, and that will also reduce development costs. My only thing that I want to make sure that I mention is that if you're saying that you want to have the same games that are on the PS4 and Xbox One on the Switch, there's going to be some disappointment there. If you want some of those games, every console is going to have some exclusives. It's correct that right now Microsoft doesn't have a whole lot of exclusives, but Sony does and Nintendo does. And if people want to play Mario Odyssey, they're going to have to get the Switch. And that's exactly what Nintendo fans would tell them. They would say, well, it's a Nintendo exclusive. You gotta get that thing. If you want the exclusives that are on the other console, you're going to have to get those. Now, when I look at the Switch, I'm very happy that they didn't make another Xbox One or PS4. They wanted to make something unique, and I think that they succeeded here. And what I hope is that rather than simply porting their main franchises to the Switch, third-party developers will instead make games for the Switch that cater to its strengths, like portability or taking one of the Joy-Cons off and sharing it with someone. Anyway, thank you so much, Trevor, for listening. You can email me by sending an email to runjumpstomp@gmail.com. You can also call and leave a voicemail. The phone number is 260-RUN-JUMP. You can join the Discord, runjumpstomp.com/Discord. I got a message from Crazy Legs on the Discord. He said, per your comment on the podcast, I still play ARMS and I love that game. No poking for me either. Oh gosh, who was that? I didn't write down who said this, but somebody else says that they totally agree. ARMS is a much more fresh fighting game than Pokken Tournament. Anyway, make sure that you get in touch with me. Tell me what you think about the show and about Nintendo in general. And you can do it in any of those ways that I just mentioned. And of course, you can stop by the live stream sometime. I record this show live at twitch.tv/runjumpstomp. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wait, Tuesdays and Thursdays? Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I almost forgot. Usually 3 p.m. Eastern. And on Saturdays, it's up in the air. I don't know when I get to do that on that day. It all depends on what my family and I are doing. Let's jump into the news. You forgot that, Vaxxer? Or is that something you're going to pick up? Well, ARMS 3.1 is here, and it brings us a brand new stage, although it's not really a new stage. It's actually the sparring ring, that if you were, how do I explain? When you were waiting for a match in like the party mode in ARMS, you could just like practice playing. And it would bring you into this, the sparring stage, and it would pop up these little targets for you to shoot the arms at. And it's a square stage. It doesn't have any gimmicks. It's what's used in the warm-up minigame. It really, to me, it feels like this is going to be the thing that people do in tournaments, maybe. Kind of like in Super Smash Brothers, when people will they'll say no items, no Pokemon, or no any other things, just empty battlefield so that there's nothing random about what's going on. And it's kind of like a neutral stage. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. I mean, because people haven't seemed to have any problems with playing the tournaments the way that we've done so up until now. But anyway, that's what's new. They also have adjusted a few of the fighters, like Ninjara. I like the way that they phrased this. They said, after getting some advice from a Ninja College alum, distance traveled when performing a mid-air mist warp has increased. Mid-air mist warp refers to the ninja technique performed by dashing after jumping. I love that they do stuff like that. I'm not going to go through all of the changes. If you want to check those out, click the link in the show notes and you can check out all of that stuff. There's also a couple of bugs that were fixed as well. Anyway, that is it for ARMS. Let's now talk about some bad news. Well, is it bad news? It's odd news, and well, let's get to it. Name ARMS. Whoops, not ARMA. ARMS. You'd like to buy it, you have it on PC, and you like Rayman. You played Rayman 2, Origins, and Legends. See, I've never really played a Rayman game except for the one that was on the on iOS, whatever one that is. Okay, back. So I received this email the other day, and I think a lot of people did. It said, "Thank you for using the Nintendo Creators Program. We have updated the Nintendo Creators Program user guide with information on how revenue generated during live stream broadcasts on YouTube will be handled in the Nintendo Creators Program." For those of you that don't know, the Nintendo Creators Program is basically you partner with Nintendo, and then if you make a video on YouTube, they claim it, monetize it, and then they send you I think it's like a 70% share of the revenue that you would make on that. Now, it's never really affected me because my YouTube channel is like the tiniest of tiny, and I've never made more than $1 in a month on my YouTube channel. But that's not a big deal. Let me continue to what I'm talking about here. It says live streaming on YouTube falls outside of the scope of the Nintendo Creators Program. This means that you cannot broadcast content on YouTube Live from the account you have registered for the Nintendo Creators Program. Please check the user guide for details. Thank you for your ongoing support of the Nintendo Creators Program. As YouTube continues to evolve, we will work to provide you timely information to help you manage your account with the Nintendo Creators Program. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, what it means is that if you are live streaming, you're not going to get revenue from that particular, from advertising revenue from that particular stream. And a lot of people are upset about this, and maybe they have cause to be. Maybe they get a lot of money from revenue, or from advertising revenue. But my guess is that most people who are live streaming get a strong majority of their revenue comes from the people who are watching rather than advertising. That's just what my gut tells me. I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's what my gut tells me. I know that, on Twitch, I make no money off of advertising. That's all advertising money goes straight to Twitch. And there's a lot of people on Twitch that are making pretty good money. Not me. I'm making, enough to pay for a game or two, but it's not a lot. I do this because it's fun, not because it makes me any money. That being said, I think this is perfectly within Nintendo's rights to say this. And the reason why is because they don't want to put advertising on something that is not family friendly, I think is the way that I would want to phrase it, or something that's not advertiser friendly. So they're not going to want to put their stamp of approval on something. And if it's live streamed, there's no telling what can happen. That's really the point, that I think that Nintendo is looking at this and they're saying, well, during a live stream, anything could happen. And because anything could happen, that's something that they have to, kind of take a big old stick and keep it at bay. And they're like, I don't think that's the place where we want to be. So I totally understand why Nintendo is trying to protect their brand in this way. I think that there's probably better ways to do it. I'm not a legal person. I don't know much about the law and that kind of thing. The law, I'll hold up with quotation marks. But that's just my opinion. Now, I'm sure that there are people out there who are going to be impacted. Their wallets will be impacted in this way. And that's tough. And I know that there's some people who've been said, well, at least Twitch isn't affected. Well, you got to remember that YouTube only has this kind of stuff built in because YouTube got sued, and then they had to do stuff like this. So at some point, Twitch is going to get big enough. I mean, it's pretty big as it is, but at some point, Twitch is going to get big enough that it's going to look like a big old dollar sign to the lawyers of not just Nintendo, but Viacom. Those are the people who had originally sued YouTube and caused the, under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So I think that, right now, are you safe on Twitch? Sure. Will you always be? I don't know. I think it would be a mistake for Nintendo to block people from streaming their games. And I don't think that that's what they're doing here. They're just saying, you can't make ad revenue off of our games because we don't want ads on live streams because we can't control what it is that you're going to do. Whereas if you submit a show to our Nintendo Creators Program, we can look at it and say, okay, the guy didn't do anything untoward, or the gal didn't say anything that shouldn't be said, so we'll go ahead and let them earn some revenue off of this. And I think it's just all about Nintendo protecting their brand, and I think it's a smart move on their part. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Thank you very much, Faldaki Laylek. I screwed that name up bad, I'm sure, but thank you for the follow. All right. I'm really tired of buying games more than once. I wish that developers would just stop porting games to the Switch so I could stop buying the games that I already own, but I can't resist this. Red Hook Studios is bringing Darkest Dungeon to the Switch. We don't have a release date yet, but Darkest Dungeon is a fantastic game that I almost never play. And the reason I almost never play it is because I have just too much to do. But having that on a portable system where I could play it at my PC, sitting in the living room, sitting in bed, sitting in the kitchen, sitting in a car, having that game just wherever I am would mean that I would play it so much more. This is one of those games that is, and people say this all the time, but this is one of those games that is just perfect for the Switch. Being able to take Darkest Dungeon on the road with you is very exciting to me. And I'm going to have to buy this again. And if you don't know what Darkest Dungeon is, it's this really cool game where you have you get 4 heroes. You go into a dungeon. You kind of move through the dungeon side scroller wise, but it's, you're just moving left and right. And then monsters show up and you have to fight them in a turn-based mode. And as you get deeper into the dungeon, your characters will not only lose health, but they'll lose their sanity. And it's very, very fun. If you've never seen Darkest Dungeon, head on over to Twitch and just type in Darkest Dungeon. You're going to have some fun watching somebody play it. And when this game comes to the Switch, you're going to have fun watching me play it because I'm going to be streaming it on the Switch because it just looks so fun. And it's the perfect game for the Switch. Did I name that last one? I did not. So I'll name that YouTube. And then we'll scroll down here and we'll name this Darkest Dungeon. Mario Odyssey is now playable at some Best Buy locations. This is huge, and this is huge not just because people are going to be able to try out the games. This is a big deal because of one reason alone. If they now have kiosks where you can play a Nintendo Switch, that tells me that Nintendo feels comfortable with the amount of Switches that they have, that they are able to produce for the holiday season. And that means that it's going to be a whole lot easier to get a Nintendo Switch than it has been in the past. It's funny, a friend of mine bought one. He bought it off Amazon from a third-party seller. It arrived, and he was not happy because he was trying to play Zelda, and he was getting all kinds of huge frame drops. He was telling me about it. I was like, well, did you update? Because I know at first there were some frame drops, but then the updates kind of fixed that. And he's like, no, that didn't fix it. So I said, well, I think you should either call Nintendo or return it to Amazon. He decided to return it to Amazon because he didn't want to have a bad unit. And the reason I'm telling you about this is because yesterday I was at GameStop picking up my my Super Nintendo Classic, and when I was walking in, they had a sign right on the front door, and it said Switch in stock. And I immediately pulled out my phone and texted him. I said, hey man, they got Switch in stock at GameStop. I don't know if he said thanks. I don't know if he went to pick one up or not. But you know, that goes to show you that the Switch is more and more easy to find these days. Nintendo is, it seems like they're hitting their stride with manufacturing. So the fact that we've now got playable kiosks at stores is a very big deal for the Nintendo Switch. Not only because people are going to be able to pick them up. I don't think Nintendo would make the mistake of putting out kiosks and then not having them available to be purchased. But also because people are going to walk up, they're going to see it, and they're going to be like, oh, I'll try this out. And it's going to sell them on the games, or the games are going to sell them on the system. Now, it's funny, the picture that I saw on the Reddit comment, or on the Reddit post, okay, good. So it shows both a controller in the Joy-Con grip, and it shows the separate Joy-Cons. So that's good, because people are going to be able to check out what the controls are like. And just imagine if they have ARMS set up in a store or something like that. That's going to sell systems. Or Splatoon, for crying out loud. Splatoon will be out there as well. Link31254 in chat says, I saw 3 Switches at Walmart and 2 at GameStop recently. They seem a little more available. And anecdotally, I would say exactly the same thing. So let me know what you guys are noticing. You know, next time you go to a store, just swing by the electronics department and ask how many Switches they have in stock. It would be interesting to hear that. Let's go to gameplay. Man, let me name this. Best Buy, I guess. The sun must have come out from behind some clouds because my camera has got all kinds of wonkiness. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right. So I'm going to skip the gameplay section this time because I haven't had time to play anything at all. It's been insane. Just nuts. That's not true. I played for maybe an hour since the last episode of SteamWorld Dig 2, and that was about it. Outside of about 1 hour of SteamWorld Dig 2, I haven't had any time to play anything since the last episode, so I'm going to jump right over gameplay and go straight into the lightning round, where I talk a little bit less about each topic. Dom Von Doom on our Discord channel sent a message or a link in the Switchcraft Stories channel, and they said that the Wii Shop channel is shutting down on January 1st, 2019. What I would really hope, which would be awesome, is if they would just go and take the music from the Wii Shop channel, remix it a little bit, and drop it in the Switch Shop channel, just so that could kind of live on. I think that would be cool. Nintendad dropped a link in the Discord. He said that Golf Story Dev added sound to the HD Rumble. So if you knock a ball out of bounds, and it makes a sound, and it's not coming from the speakers, it's coming from the HD Rumble, which is kind of cool. Right before I started the show, somebody, I think it was, I can't remember now. I think it was also... No. This was a story I found on Reddit. Battle Chasers Night War. We've got a release date for the Switch. That's November 28th. That's coming in right before the. Oh man, that's a tough time to come out with a massive 200-hour plus JRPG coming out just a couple days later with not Fire Emblem. What the hell's the name of that game? Xenoblade 2. But anyway, we finally have a release date for Battle Chasers Night War, so that's awesome. And then finally, Skyrim is weighing in at 13.37 gigabytes. Thank you to Nintendad. He dropped that link in not only the Discord, but in the Twitch chat while we were getting ready to record, so I appreciate it. Coming soon, we've got on October 2nd, 88 Heroes, the 99 Heroes edition. I love that name. And it's time to wrap up the show. Okay. That's all the time that we have for today. If there's a story that I missed or a topic that I want, I screwed that up. Let's try again. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. If there's a story that I missed, I can't talk. That's all the time that we have for today. If there's a story that I missed or a topic that you would like discussed, please let me know in one of the ways that I told you about at the top of the show. If you're looking for ways to support the show, there's many ways that you can do that. The number one easiest way to do it is to review the show on Apple Podcasts or apparently on Podbean, or share the show with a friend. That would be huge, huge, huge to me. There's other ways that you can throw money at me, and I'll catch all of it, I promise. Just head on over to runjumpstomp.com/support to check those things out. Thank you again to the Podnuts Podcast Network for sponsoring today's show. I appreciate it. Please head on over to podnuts.com and find out more about their network of tech podcasts. And special thanks to Noteblock and Tom Winter for use of your music in the show. Keep up the great work. Make sure you head on over to their YouTube channels and subscribe, because they make some really awesome stuff. And tell them that I sent you. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. You know, Vaxxer said that the ad was a little too long, so I think I want to redo that ad. Because I felt like a minute 45 is too long. It is going to be a short episode. There's not a whole lot that wants to compete with. Oh my God, I didn't even talk about the Super Nintendo. Well, I got to put that someplace. All right, let me talk about that right now. Well, today is September 30th. Yesterday, the SNES Classic came out. I have one. I had pre-ordered one at GameStop. I haven't had any time to play the damn thing. I'm going to play it right after I finish recording. I'm going to stream it, and you can check out the VOD if you didn't know about it ahead of time, but you can check out the VOD at twitch.tv/runjumpstomp. I'm going to be streaming Super Mario RPG, a game I've never played. There's a lot of games on this thing that I've never played. I'm excited to play it. I'm sure that you are too. If you have awesome stories about getting yours, please feel free to email them to me, runjumpstomp@gmail.com. I want to hear about that. All right, let's move on. SNES. All right, let me move this up. So we'll put that up next to... What the hell is this? Oh, that's the feedback. I never named the feedback. All right. Move this up. Right after feedback. There we go. And I want to re-record the ad because I'm not happy with it. So let me bring that up. It's in my email, just so that I have all of the pertinent information, like who the hosts are. There we go. Sounds weird. Nope. There we go. Okay. You know what? I really need to copy this into its own document so that I can remember it. And then we did... Where in the heck did it go? The mini PC show. There we go. See you later, Link. I'd like to take a moment before we start this episode to thank the sponsor of the show, and that would be the Podnuts podcasting network at podnuts.com. They are a group of tech shows by normal tech people for normal tech people. And they've got a lot of shows over there, but I want to talk about the Mini PC show. This is a show that is focused on all kinds of mini computers like Raspberry Pis, Odroids, shuttle computers, Arduinos, etc. It would have really helped me had I listened to this show before building my own Raspberry Pi. I recently finished retrofitting a 1980 Atari Asteroids Deluxe arcade cabinet that I was able to snag for $60. And I built a Raspberry Pi, and I had to... Oh, man, it stopped recording. I hate that. All right, let's try again. Okay. Before we get into episode 89, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, and that is the Uncut. Why can't I talk today? I gotta figure this out, damn it. Before we get into episode 89, I want to take just a moment to thank the sponsor of the show, and that is the Podnuts. Before we get into episode 89, I want to take just a moment to thank a sponsor of the show, and that is the podnuts.com tech podcast network. They have all kinds of shows over there. Today, I want to focus on just one of them, the Mini PC show. Host Brian, Flying Rich, Daniel, and Dor talk about Raspberry Pis, Odroid, shuttle computers, all shapes and sizes of mini computers. And this is a show that would have been very, very helpful to me. I just finished retrofitting an arcade cabinet to have a Retro Pi in it. And I had to do a lot of research in order to figure out what to do, because it's a little bit outside of what I normally do. And if I had listened to the Mini PC show before doing that, it would have made life a little easier. So make sure you check that out at podnuts.com. That's the Mini PC show. And thank you to Podnuts Network for the sponsor. Under a minute, baby.